What's good, everybody? You're watching the 49ers Report by Chat Sports. I'm Chase Sr. Hope all of you have had an awesome weekend. I know for me, it's included watching a lot of NCAA tournament basketball. March Madness has been great. Had an opportunity to watch a couple of games live at Dickies Arena in Fort Worth. Two really good matchups. UNC Baylor coming down to the wire after Baylor able to mount that comeback, and Creighton and Kansas. The point of this video, one, I just want to talk Niners because I love chopping it up with the faithful. Two, the Niners didn't make any moves over the weekend. We're still waiting for that Jimmy Garoppolo domino to fall. But three, wanted to kind of recap what the 49ers have done so far in NFL free agency and take a look at some big names who are still out there and players that they can sign. Before we get started, name a player in the comment section that you want the 49ers to ink to a contract. Maybe it's a Stephon Gilmore, Marquez Valdes-Scantling. You let me know in the comment section. And while you're down there, don't forget to subscribe for free daily videos as we cover all things Niners all year round. So with what the Niners have done so far in free agency, they haven't made any monster splashes. Really, they've fulfilled some areas of need and they've been financially responsible in doing so. Really, when that Jimmy Garoppolo trade goes down, if it goes down, that opens up a lot of salary cap space to maybe pay and extend Deebo Samuel and Nick Bosa. And while they're not technically free agents, those would go down as monster splashes for the Niners. And I think those moves are imminent at some point this offseason. And in my opinion, I think that the Niners should ink those franchise pillars to long-term contract extensions. I think if you get it done now going into the final year of their rookie contracts, with the NFL salary cap continuing to grow, yes, they're going to be paid a lot of money, but because the NFL becomes richer and richer year in and year out, and because the salary cap is only going to continue to increase, if Deebo and Bosa continue at this level and they continue to produce like they have been, especially last year, you can actually, by signing them now, save some money down the road because these contracts are only going to get larger and larger. So, with what the Niners have done so far on their free agency tracker, haven't spent crazy money, and the consistent theme, all of the players who they have signed are young. So Oren Burks, linebacker of the Green Bay Packers, coming to the Niners on a 2-year, $5 million deal. Special teams ace, rotational depth piece at the linebacking position. I understand the Packers were not a good special teams unit last year, but Oren Burks was a very good special teamer in coverage. A former, I think, 3rd or 4th round pick out of Vanderbilt, has never really projected to be a starting linebacker, but with the Niners having the 26th worst special teams unit in the NFL last year, they needed to really improve that unit. It was one of the worst in the National Football League. That's why they brought in Brian Schneider to be the new special teams coordinator, and Richard Hightower was basically left go and signed on with the Chicago Bears. But when you rank 26, you have to make some moves to address that area, because if you continue to get gashed on special teams, that's how you lose football games. So Oren Burks comes to the Niners from the Packers on that 2-year, $5 million deal. Him and Demetrius Flannigan-Foles, really your depth linebackers now after Fred Warner, Azeez Al-Shire, and Dre Greenlaw. Those three starters, I think it's one of the best, if not the best, linebacking cores in the National Football League. Another special teams player who is very good as a returner, that is Ray-Ray McCloud, formerly of the Pittsburgh Steelers. He's signing a 2-year deal worth in the neighborhood of $10 million, leading punt returner in the NFL last year, averaged more than 22 yards per kick return, and if you look at his offensive statistics as a wide receiver, he didn't put up crazy numbers, and he never has. But you have to think about it this way. That Steelers offense last year and over the last couple of years has been stagnant. It's been methodical. It's been downright bad. And Ben Roethlisberger has been washed for a little while. I like Ray-Ray McCloud coming to the Niners because you immediately upgrade in getting one of the best returners in the NFL, and you improve your special teams units. But I'm excited to see how a young and emerging emerging player is going to be involved in this offense led by Kyle Shanahan, who we know likes to get very creative with play designs, play wrinkles, and finding a way to put the ball in the hands of his best playmakers. And I think Ray-Ray McCloud is going to benefit playing for Kyle Shanahan and really be able to do some nice things as that gadget guy. Jet sweeps, bubble screens. He can run some routes as well. He really has that kind of stutter step in the return game, which allows him to pick up a lot of yards after fielding some of these kicks and punts. I want to see how that translates to the offensive side of the football. I do like Ray-Ray McCloud coming to the Niners. George Odum, what do you know? Another special teams player signing with the Niners on a 3-year, nearly $11 million contract. He is a former All-Pro special teams player. So again, the previous point that I had made, the Niners needed to improve in a couple of areas. Cornerback, they did that with a big splash signing that we'll talk about here momentarily, and they needed to improve special teams. Outside of that, they need offensive line depth badly. They're a Trent Williams injury away from not having a good front line protecting who we expect to be Trey Lance, and you need to keep him upright and healthy so that his confidence doesn't wane. But George Odum is another depth piece at the safety spot. Does this signal that they're going to move on from Jaquiski Tartt? I'm not sure. I think Jimmy Ward is going to get a contract extension. If you let Tartt go, is Odum going to be your starting safety? I don't believe so. Did not miss a single tackle last year, did George Odum when he was playing for the Colts. That's really impressive. I think he's not going to be the starter. Slate's more as a backup safety, but a guy who, when he gets down the field on special teams, is excellent. And you're basically paying him depth / special teams ace money on that 3-year, $10.95 million contract. DJ Jones left the Niners to sign with the Denver Broncos. What a story he was as a former 6th-round pick who just really improved under Chris Kocurek and D'Amico Ryans and Robert Saleh. His development is a big reason why he landed a 3-year, $30 million contract, making $10 million per year. The Niners simply couldn't afford to pay him that money, and honestly, good for DJ Jones for landing that contract, coming off the best year of his career. As a run stuffer, he was excellent. One of the best interior defensive linemen in the NFL last year, and in the pass game, he greatly improved as a guy who could track down quarterbacks and get a couple of sacks here and there and provide some pressures. He was one of the best D tackles in the league last year, and that's a big reason why he landed $10 million per year. Good for him. I believe $20 million in guaranteed money. Now, by losing him, you had to make an addition. You lost Contavious Street as well to the New Orleans Saints. So you had to fill the void by getting some more depth pieces along the defensive line at D tackle, and you did that with Hassan Ridgeway. 1 year, $2.5 million contract. Now, started his career with the Indianapolis Colts, then went to the Philadelphia Eagles. He was kind of overshadowed in Philly by Fletcher Cox, Javon Hargrave, and a couple of other really good defensive linemen like Brandon Graham. So he was kind of lost in the mix here a little while. And last year, Milton Williams out of Louisiana Tech was drafted by Philly, which affected the playing time a little bit for Hassan Ridgeway. But this is basically your DJ Jones / Contavious Street replacement, and he does have some pretty interesting language in his contract. It significantly does change with playing time. So $1 million vet min base salary, $350,000 signing bonus, $340,000 total per game roster bonus money, and $75,000 workout bonus with a $1.8 million salary cap hit in 2022. That coming from David Lombardi of The Athletic. So that kind of shows you they're banking on him being a good player, and if he's even better and exceeds some expectations, then he can make even more money, which adds fuel to the fire for him to really get after it, get into the gym, master the scheme. And look, the Niners have done a terrific job of developing defensive linemen, and basically bringing guys in who end up being huge bargains and overperform their contracts. DJ Jones was one of them, Jordan Willis as well. I expect the same to happen with Hassan Ridgeway. Used to cover the Eagles, and I think he's a really, really solid rotational defensive tackle. Him coming to the Niners has to have him really excited because Chris Kocurek has just done such a great job of developing defensive linemen over time. One more signing to get to, that's the Charvarius Ward deal on the Niners free agency tracker. That's the big signing so far. 3 years, $42 million, $26.7 million in guaranteed money for a guy who is only 25 years old, entering his age 26 season. He's an emerging, ascending player who was undrafted a few years ago out of Middle Tennessee State, then latches on with the Dallas Cowboys. They trade him away for nothing. He goes to the Chiefs, and this past year, he was arguably their best cornerback. And I like his size, 6'1". I like his length. I like his projections as he continues to get better. Some of the analytics show that he was like top 5 in coverage last year among all NFL cornerbacks. This guy can really play. I love his mentality too. He's a dog. He goes from not being drafted to carving a role out in the NFL to playing very well for the Kansas City Chiefs, and that leads to him getting a big payday. And now him and Emmanuel Mosley with Ambry Thomas, Diamador Lenore, that gives you a really good secondary that maybe there's another move out there. But for Ward, just go back and watch the AFC title game against the Cincinnati Bengals. Him locking down Jamar Chase as well as T. Higgins. Impressive performance. It's also been really good against DeAndre Hopkins throughout his career, and he's going to have to continue to elevate his game in a division that features some of the best wide receivers in the National Football League. Coach Yak, who always does a good job tweeting out stats and analytics. Charvarius Ward, this is what he's done going up against DeAndre Hopkins. 8 targets, 5 catches, 65 yards, 0 touchdowns, 1 interception, and 1 PBU. Good with his hands off the line of scrimmage, has good speed, has good instincts, has decent ball skills as well, and that's why the Niners fulfill a need, and they give him $26.7 million in guaranteed money because they expect him to be a premier player in this defense as he continues to get better, improve, and really, the projections do indicate that he can really develop and play very well for the San Francisco defense, and they need him to because they needed to make some additions at cornerback. So those are all the free agent moves that the Niners have made. As for the reported interest in other players, signing Ray-Ray McCloud, does that take him out of the Marquez Valdes-Scantling sweepstakes? He is a intriguing piece because he can really get up and down the field vertically. Questionable hands, but with the Niners receiving core right now, if you can get a vertical field stretcher, it just opens up so much space and so many opportunities on underneath routes for Deebo Samuel, George Kittle, as well as Brandon Ayuk. Like, that cannot be understated. And I think Valdes-Scantling would be able to do that with the Niners. I just don't know how much money he's going to get paid. I'm not sure how much the Niners are willing to pay him. Maybe they see better options out there. But as a guy who can really run, he can fly, he's got burners, some questionable hands, he's made big plays against the Niners. I'm somewhat intrigued by it. I'm just not sure if Ray-Ray McCloud takes them out of those sweepstakes. Really, a big player who the Niners have reportedly shown interest in, that's Stephon Gilmore. Now, does Charvarius Ward take the Niners out of the running for Stephon Gilmore? There was some reported interest from the Las Vegas Raiders. They end up making a trade for Rock Ya-Sin in that huge deal that landed them Chandler Jones. They traded away Yannick Ngakoue. But Stephon Gilmore, I'm interested and fascinated to see what his market is going to be. J.C. Jackson, $20 million per year in his first 2 years of his contract while signing with the Los Angeles Chargers. A player like Carlton Davis is making more than 16, and the Niners are going to be paying Charvarius Ward in the neighborhood of $14 million per year. So what does Stephon Gilmore get as a guy who can still play, coming off a Pro Bowl season in 2019? He was a Defensive Player of the Year. We're not too far removed from that, but did have an injury-plagued 2020 season, played about half this year, good enough to make it to the Pro Bowl, but in his early 30s, I doubt there's going to be a team that offers him a long-term contract worth a lot of money. If I'm the Niners and he wants $8 to $10 million per year, I'd really consider paying him that money, because then you have a secondary with Charvarius Ward, Stephon Gilmore, Emmanuel Moseley, and Ambry Thomas. You can kind of fill the void at all positions in that secondary, and maybe you move a guy like Emmanuel Moseley to the slot. Does that then lead to you losing a K'Wan Williams, who I thought had the best year of his career last year? Yeah, that's pretty fascinating. And then the whole Bobby Wagner situation, I just don't see it making sense with the money, with the fit. I think the Niners really like Azeez Al-Shaair, who they're bringing back for another year because they exercise that tender. He's going to be making around $4 million per year. You brought back Demetrius Flanagan-Foles. You signed Oren Burks. I think they like Dre Greenlaw. He would probably have to get traded if the Niners were to sign Bobby Wagner. But look, do they go after Gilmore? Do they go after Wagner? They're older players, and everything that the Niners have done so far this offseason, they have signed and they have prioritized younger players. Now, they do have about 10 picks in the NFL draft, and maybe they fulfill offensive line, maybe corner, maybe safety there, and wide receiver instead of spending big money in free agency. But that is, of course, something that we're going to continue to monitor here on the 49ers Report. All right, that's going to do it for me. Just wanted to chop it up late night on a Sunday to talk about Niners free agency moves, latest news and rumors, their interest in some players out there. Don't forget to subscribe. Let me know a player you want the Niners to sign in the comments section. We'll be back all week for week 2 of NFL free agency, keeping you in the know with all things Niners as these moves happen this week and all year long.